This is Focal Point with Brian Fisher on AFR Talk.
Wednesday edition of Focal Point on AFR Talk, the American Family Radio Talk Network. Brian Fisher is my name. Great to have you in the conversation. You know, we were talking in that last segment with Margaret from Grants Pass, Oregon, about upcoming elections, the 2016 election. We've got 2014 elections that are coming up that are extremely important. And one of the things I want to talk with you about in this segment is the voter guide that the American Family Association has developed in partnership with the Heritage Alliance. Now, this is a voter guide that is very heavily and thoroughly researched. It's compiled through the best of research, the best information. It's very carefully prepared, so it is a resource that you can trust. And I want to welcome to our decision maker line Richard Ford, who is the founder and president of the Heritage Alliance, with whom we partner to build this voter guide, which you can find at AFAAction.net, AFAAction.net. Richard Ford is my guest in our decision maker line. Richard, welcome to Focal Point with Brian Fisher.
Well, thank you very much, Brian. It is a real privilege to be with you today, and AFA is fabulous. Just have to say that off the top. Well,
thank you, and that's very kind of you to say so. And Richard, we feel the same way about the work that you're doing there at the Heritage Alliance, and it's why we are honored to be able to partner with you in producing this voter guide. And Richard, I think what I want to do to start our segment, we've got a video that has been prepared here by our team, our video team here at AFA, that kind of describes what this video guide is really all about. So Richard, let's you and I listen to this, and those of you that are watching can see it, and then we'll dissect it after we're done. Let's listen.
Who are our leaders? I mean, who are they really? What's behind their polished speeches and promises to make our lives better? A recent Pew Research poll showed that over 80% of people don't trust Washington to do what's right. Scandals, broken promises, and core Christian values being attacked every day are only making that number rise. There's a growing disconnect between politicians and the citizens they represent. The only way to affect change in Washington is to vote. Primary elections are where most elections are won or lost. Less than 20% of registered voters actually vote in the primaries, but primaries determine the election. So then, how do we know who to vote for? The iVoter Guide is an in-depth, high-quality, web-based, nonpartisan, and user-friendly guide to inform voters on their choices in each election. We rate politicians on a scale from very liberal to very conservative. But what goes on behind this rating system? Our team of researchers looks at their history. Who is this person? How have they voted on bills in the past? Who are they giving money to? Who are they getting money from? Each candidate answers questions, and all of this information is then compiled and scored. This process is then multiplied all across the country without losing attention to detail. This will be your guide. The information you see will be customized for your ballot. On the website, you can get as much or as little detail as you want. Our goal is for you to be informed, so that you know that your vote is making an impact. Small changes in voter mobilization can alter an election. Together, we can help return our nation to its founding principles. 5 million Christian households could literally elect a majority in Congress. By using this guide, you will know that your choice is an informed one as we seek to change this country one vote at a time.
So that's a little trailer you can see about the iVoter Guide. Got an app for the iPhone, for the Android. I've got the app on my iPhone, looking at it right now. Well, Richard, talk to us a little bit about that. One of the things we emphasize in that spot is the importance of primary elections. Talk to us a little bit about that and how this voter guide at AFAAction.net can help people make an informed decision in a primary election. Why are these elections so important?
Well, most people have no idea that really the most important election is in their primary, not the general election typically held in November. Illustration, the Associated Press just came out with an article a couple of days ago here in Texas, and they mentioned that about 750,000 people will actually choose the leaders in Texas. Now, that's out of a state of 26 million people. And how that happens is that over the last 20 years, whoever has gotten the Republican nomination ends up winning governor, lieutenant governor, attorney general, and all of the statewide offices. A second thing that applies not only in Texas but also all across the country is that the legislators, every 10 years when they redraw the legislative boundaries, the political party that is in charge or has the majority, they will pack the other party into a small number of districts. And then they will put themselves in a larger number of districts, but they draw those districts so that they represent one party or the other, which means that whoever wins that party's primary is going to win in November. So all of your state house, all of your state senate, and all of your U.S. House are basically determined in the party primary and not in the general election. And in the party primary, in Texas, we will have somewhere between 10 and 15% of the people actually turn out. That means 7% is the majority. And that's why that handful of people, 700,000, will actually elect our statewide officers and our state legislators.
You know, Richard, we have a lot of folks in the state of Texas listening to us right now. Some of them might not even be aware that the primary in Texas is next Tuesday.
That's right, and early voting ends this Friday. So they've got just a little bit of time to get in there, but their vote literally is going to count for about 9 other people if they'll go and cast it, because the others either do not know about it or do not care enough about it to go and vote.
Well, and this is what's timely about this voter guide being available now for our voters in Texas, you know, because the AP article has a paragraph. I'm looking at it here, Richard, the one that you refer to. Says GOP voters want, quote, authentic conservatives, end quote, who support gun rights and the death penalty while opposing abortion and the illegal immigration. They don't like the Environmental Protection Agency. They don't like the Affordable Care Act. They adore United States troops and Christian values. And so what the AP is saying, look, this is what GOP voters in Texas are looking for. And so the question then is, how do you identify those voters? And that's what the voter guide is really all about, how to identify those candidates that are going to be as conservative enough to match your own personal values.
What we do is, let me explain the voter guide just a little bit more since we went through the video. I won't delve too heavily into it. But the key thing is that most people in primaries have no idea who the candidates are because they're not household names. Only the incumbent may be. So what we do is we actually go in and we identify every candidate. And, you know, in the typical voter guide that is presented, it's normally just some questions and answers. But and only maybe 25, 30% of the candidates will even take the time to answer them. On the other hand, what we do is we actually go in and we look at incumbent vote ratings, and we include the AFAAction's vote rating in there also. We also look at who has the candidate given money to, received money from, who's endorsed them. Then we do get them to fill out a survey, and then a panel of 3 to 5 people will evaluate every candidate. Now, we have a bunch of panels, but each panel has about 3 to 5 members. And they look at every single candidate, and they look at all the data that we've come up with, and then they score them on a 7-point scale from the most conservative to the most liberal. And then for those that want to see more information, say, well, how do I know that's accurate? Then all of the information that it was based upon is under details. And so the voters can look at the snapshot picture or they can look at the detailed picture. Whatever will help them make a good vote and a wise vote.
Now, I'm assuming, Richard, in the state of Texas next Tuesday in the primary, that they'll also be voting on candidates for state legislature. Are those races also profiled on the voter guide?
In Texas and 13 other states, we do include the statewide races and the state legislative races. So in Texas, yes, we will have all of those. In fact, in Texas, we have evaluated 216 candidates. And let me just say that as each state comes up for their primary, we will have their primary online. And 36 of the states we will have just the federal candidates, but then in 14 states we'll have the federal and the state candidates.
Well, you think about these primary elections, talking here with Richard Ford, founder and president of the Heritage Alliance. We work in partnership with Heritage Alliance to produce a voter guide at AFAAction.net. And, one of the things, Richard, about voting in primaries, a lot of people just stay home because maybe they've seen the list of names in the paper. They don't recognize any of the names. They don't know anything about them. They say, man, if I went out and voted, it'd just be like throwing a dart at a dartboard. But what the AFAAction.net voter guide, the iVoter guide, enables people to do, they can get information at their fingertips about the races that they're going to be voting in, because you put your address in there and it pops up the information about the races that you actually will be voting on. So you don't have to wade through a lot of extraneous information to find the information that's relevant to you.
There is more information in this voter guide than you will find anywhere else. You won't find it in the newspaper. You won't find it with all the mailings and the advertisements that the candidates provide. This is all based on facts. This is on what they've done, not what they say they will do. So it's looking at their walk, not listening to their talk.
And so this primary in Texas is next Tuesday, March 4. If no candidate gets a majority, they have two candidate runoffs that happen on May 29, and according to the AP, even fewer people turn out for these runoff elections. So this is a critically important time, it seems to me, Richard, and I'll give you the last word here. We got about 30 seconds, 40 seconds left. But it seems like it's absolutely critical for people to be involved, people of faith and people of values, to be involved in these primary elections. So for people in Texas, next Tuesday's absolutely critical. If you want to get information you can rely on, go to AFAAction.net and access the voter guide.
Romans 13:1 says the authority that we have comes from God, and so we should be good stewards of that authority. And I would just suggest that not only should your listeners go and vote after using the voter guide, but also post that link, AFAAction.net, on their Facebook pages, and also forward it to their email address.
One last thing, Richard, just was handed this breaking news that a federal judge has struck down Texas's gay marriage ban. That just happened today. So it's going to be absolutely critical then that the people of Texas elect an attorney general who will defend the state marriage amendment that limits marriage to the union of one man and one woman. They'll have a chance to weigh in on that next Tuesday, March 4. Go to AFAAction.net. My guest has been Richard Ford, founder and president of Heritage Alliance. Thank you, Richard, very much. Appreciate so much the work that you do. Thanks for being with us.
God bless you.
Focal Point AFR Talk. We'll be right back with more, including your calls. Stay with us.